The Galactic Empire stretched across the stars like an unshakable monolith, its dominion unchallenged for centuries. Its fleets, vast and gleaming, patrolled the edges of known space, their presence a silent warning to any who might dare defy the Emperor's will. The Empire's leaders, seated in their opulent halls on the capital world of Xerxes Prime, spoke of their civilization as the pinnacle of evolution, a force too mighty to ever fall. They laughed at the notion of rebellion, dismissing smaller civilizations as insects beneath their boots. Among these leaders was Grand Admiral Krelos, a towering figure with a voice like thunder and a reputation for crushing dissent without mercy. He was the Empire's fist, its unyielding enforcer, and he relished his role. When the first reports came in of a small human fleet approaching the Empire's borders, Krelos barely glanced at the data. The fleet was laughably tiny, a mere dozen ships, their designs outdated and their weapons pitiful by Imperial standards. The humans, a species the Empire had long ignored, were requesting an audience. They claimed to come in peace, seeking to negotiate an alliance. Krelos snorted, his deep laugh echoing through the command center. "Negotiate?" he boomed, his voice dripping with disdain. "They have nothing to offer but their surrender. Let them grovel if they wish, but I will not waste my time on such trifles." The human fleet, undeterred by the Empire's silence, lingered at the edge of Imperial space. Their flagship, the Resolute, was a modest vessel, its hull scarred from countless battles. On its bridge stood Captain Alara Voss, a woman of sharp features and sharper wit. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight braid, and her piercing green eyes scanned the star map before her. Beside her stood Commander Terran Drake, her second-in-command and closest friend. Terran was a stark contrast to Alara, tall, broad-shouldered, with a calm demeanor that belied her ferocity in battle. Together, they had led their small fleet through countless skirmishes, their bond forged in fire and blood. "They're not responding," Terran said, her voice low but steady. "Typical Imperial arrogance. They think we're beneath their notice." Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. "Let them think that. Arrogance makes them predictable, and predictable enemies are easier to defeat." The humans had not come unprepared. They knew the Empire's reputation, its overwhelming strength, and its contempt for those it deemed inferior. But they also knew its weaknesses, its reliance on brute force, its inability to adapt, and its blind faith in its own superiority. Alara had spent years studying the Empire, analyzing its tactics, and preparing for this moment. She had no illusions about the odds they faced, but she also knew that the Empire's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness: its pride. When the Empire finally deigned to respond, it was not with words but with action. A small patrol fleet, led by the destroyer Iron Fist, was dispatched to escort the human ships out of Imperial space. The Iron Fist was a sleek, menacing vessel, its hull bristling with weapons. Its commander, a young and ambitious officer named Yarick Vorn, saw the mission as an opportunity to prove himself. He had no doubt that the humans would flee at the sight of his ship, their tails between their legs. But the humans did not flee. Instead, they met the Iron Fist with a precision and coordination that left Vorn stunned. The human ships moved like a single organism, their maneuvers perfectly synchronized. They targeted the Iron Fist's weak points with surgical precision, disabling its weapons and engines without destroying it. Vorn, his pride wounded, ordered a retreat, his face burning with humiliation. Back on Xerxes Prime, Krelos received the report with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "They defeated one of our destroyers?" he growled, his fists clenching. "Impossible. The humans are weak, their technology primitive. This must be a mistake." But it was not a mistake. The humans had proven themselves to be far more formidable than the Empire had anticipated. And as Krelos delved deeper into the reports, he discovered something that left him utterly baffled. The human army was largely composed of women. "Women," Krelos repeated, his voice tinged with incredulity. "They send their females to fight their battles? This is absurd. No wonder they are so weak." His advisors nodded in agreement, their laughter echoing through the chamber. But Krelos could not shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. The humans had humiliated one of his destroyers, and they had done so with ease. There was something about them, something he could not quite put his finger on. Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Elara and her crew celebrated their small victory. But Elara knew it was only the beginning. The Empire would not take this lightly. They would come back, stronger and angrier than before. And when they did, the humans would be ready. As the Resolute drifted through the void, Elara stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Terran joined her, her presence a comforting constant. "Do you think they'll ever take us seriously?" Terran asked, her voice soft. Elara smiled, her eyes gleaming with determination. "They will. Sooner or later, they'll realize that we're not just some tiny army to be mocked. And when they do, they'll regret underestimating us." The stage was set, the pieces in motion. The Galactic Empire, vast and unyielding, had been challenged by a force it could not comprehend. And as the stars burned cold and distant, the humans prepared for the storm to come. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Grand Admiral Krelos, his pride wounded by the humiliation of the Iron Fist, assembled a formidable armada to crush the human fleet once and for all. The armada was a spectacle of imperial might, hundreds of ships, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars, their weapons primed and ready. Krelos himself commanded the flagship, the Eclipse, a monstrous vessel bristling with enough firepower to level a planet. He stood on the bridge, his massive frame casting a shadow over the crew as they prepared for battle. "This ends today," he growled, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers through his subordinates. "The humans will learn their place, or they will perish." The human fleet, still stationed at the edge of Imperial space, was a stark contrast to the Empire's overwhelming force. The Resolute and its handful of sister ships seemed almost insignificant in comparison, their battered hulls and outdated technology a testament to their resilience rather than their strength. But Captain Elara Voss was undeterred. She stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her sharp green eyes scanning the incoming armada with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. Beside her, Commander Terran Drake adjusted the tactical display, her broad shoulders tense but her voice steady. "They're not holding back," Terran said, her tone matter-of-fact. "This is everything they've got." Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. "Good. Let them come. The bigger they are, the harder they fall." The battle began with a deafening roar as the Empire's armada unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, the streaks of light illuminating the void like a deadly storm. The human ships, outnumbered and outgunned, moved with a precision that defied the odds. They darted between the Imperial vessels, their maneuvers perfectly synchronized, their tactics a blend of ingenuity and audacity. Alara's voice rang out across the comms, her commands sharp and clear as she directed her fleet with the skill of a seasoned strategist. The Empire's forces, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with sheer firepower, were unprepared for the humans' unconventional tactics. The human ships targeted the Armada's weak points, communication relays, engine arrays, and weapon systems, disabling them with surgical precision. The Eclipse, despite its imposing size, found itself struggling to keep up with the smaller, more agile human vessels. Krelos, his frustration mounting, barked orders at his crew, his voice growing louder with each passing moment. "Focus your fire. Take them down." But the humans were relentless. Leading the charge was a squadron of fighters piloted by the human women soldiers, their skill and fearlessness turning the tide of battle. Among them was Lieutenant Mirakel, a young pilot with a reputation for pulling off impossible maneuvers. Her fighter, the Valkyrie, weaved through the chaos with a grace that left the Imperial pilots in awe and then in pieces. Myra's voice crackled over the comms, her tone light despite the carnage around her. "They're not so tough when you get up close," she quipped, her laughter a stark contrast to the grim reality of the battle. The Empire's forces, already reeling from the humans' relentless assault, began to falter. Rumors spread among the Imperial ranks, whispers of the human women soldiers who fought with a ferocity that defied all logic. "They're not just soldiers. one pilot muttered, his voice trembling. There's something else. Something more. Krelos, his frustration boiling over, ordered a full retreat. The Armada, once a symbol of imperial invincibility, limped back to Xerxes Prime, its hull scarred and its pride shattered. The humans, though battered and bruised, had achieved the impossible. They had faced the Empire's might and emerged victorious. Back on the Resolute, the mood was one of cautious celebration. Alara stood on the observation deck, her arms crossed as she stared out at the stars. Terran joined her, her presence a comforting constant. "We did it," Terran said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "We actually did it." Alara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "This is just the beginning. The Empire won't take this lying down. They'll come back, stronger and angrier than before." Terran sighed, her broad shoulders slumping slightly. "And we'll be ready. But do you think they'll ever understand? That we're not just some tiny army to be mocked?" Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. "They'll understand. Sooner or later, they'll realize that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone they've ever oppressed, everyone they've ever underestimated. And when they do, they'll regret underestimating us." The stage was set, the pieces in motion. The Galactic Empire, vast and unyielding, had been challenged by a force it could not comprehend. And as the stars burned cold and distant, the humans prepared for the storm to come. The Empire's defeat at the edge of its own territory sent shockwaves through its vast dominion. Grand Admiral Krelos, his pride bruised and his confidence shaken, retreated to Xerxes Prime to regroup. The once unshakable monolith of imperial power now showed cracks, and whispers of rebellion began to stir in the farthest reaches of its territory. The humans, though victorious, knew their triumph was only the first step in a much larger struggle. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her sharp green eyes fixed on the star map before her. The Empire would not rest, and neither could they. "We've bought ourselves some time," Alara said, her voice calm but resolute. "But time is all we've bought. The Empire will come for us again, and next time, they'll be ready." Commander Terran Drake, standing beside her, nodded in agreement. Her broad shoulders were tense, her expression grim. "We need to strike while they're still reeling. Hit them where it hurts." Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. "Exactly, and I know just where to start." The humans' next target was the Empire's primary supply depot, a massive orbital station known as the Citadel of Eternity. Located deep within Imperial space, the Citadel was a hub of resources and logistics, its destruction certain to cripple the Empire's ability to wage war. But reaching it would require a daring plan, one that relied on precision, audacity, and the unique skills of the human women soldiers. The plan was simple in concept but perilous in execution. A small strike team, led by Alara herself, would infiltrate the Citadel and plant explosives at key structural points. The rest of the fleet would create a diversion, drawing the Empire's forces away from the station. Success hinged on timing, coordination, and the element of surprise. Failure would mean annihilation. As the Resolute and its sister ships approached the Citadel, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Alara stood at the center of it all, her presence a calming force amidst the storm. "Remember," she said, her voice carrying the weight of command, "this isn't just about us. This is about everyone the Empire has ever oppressed, everyone they've ever underestimated. We fight for them." The strike team, clad in sleek black armor, gathered in the Resolute's hangar bay. Among them was Lieutenant Mira Kell, her fighter pilot's helmet tucked under one arm. Her sharp features were set in a determined expression, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Ready to make some noise," she said, her tone light but her resolve unwavering. Alara nodded, her gaze sweeping over the team. "Stay sharp, stick to the plan. And remember, no matter what happens, we're in this together." The infiltration began under the cover of a simulated asteroid field, the human ships blending seamlessly with the debris. The strike team, aboard a small, stealth-equipped shuttle, slipped past the Empire sensors and docked with the Citadel. The station's interior was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, its defenses formidable but predictable. Alara led the way, her movements swift and silent, her team following close behind. The first sign of trouble came when they encountered a patrol of Imperial soldiers. The humans reacted with precision, their training and teamwork evident in every move. The soldiers were dispatched quickly and quietly, their bodies hidden in the shadows. But the encounter was a reminder of the stakes. One misstep, and the entire mission would be compromised. As they neared the station's core, the team split into smaller groups, each tasked with planting explosives at specific locations. Alara and Terran took the most dangerous route, their path leading them through the heart of the citadel. The station's defenses grew more intense the deeper they went, but the two women moved with a synergy born of years of partnership. "Almost there," Terran muttered, her voice low as they approached the final target. Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the area for threats. "Stay focused. We're not out of this yet." The explosives were set with minutes to spare, the team regrouping at the extraction point. But as they prepared to leave, the station's alarms blared to life, the sound echoing through the corridors like a death knell. The Empire had discovered their presence. "Move!" Alara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The team sprinted for the shuttle, their path blocked by waves of Imperial soldiers. The humans fought with a ferocity that left their enemies reeling, their movements a blur of precision and power. Mira, her fighter pilot's reflexes honed to perfection, took point, her weapon blazing as she cleared a path. The shuttle was in sight when the first explosion rocked the station, the force of it nearly knocking them off their feet. "Go, go, go!" Alara yelled, her voice barely audible over the din. They reached the shuttle just as the second explosion tore through the citadel, the station's structural integrity failing in a cascade of fire and debris. The shuttle launched, its engines roaring as it sped away from the collapsing station. Behind them, the Citadel of Eternity erupted in a blinding flash of light, its destruction a beacon of hope for the oppressed and a warning to the Empire. Back on the Resolute, the mood was one of cautious triumph. The strike team had succeeded, but the cost had been high. The human fleet, though victorious, was battered and bruised, its resources stretched thin. Alara stood on the observation deck, her arms crossed as she stared out at the stars. Terran joined her, her presence a comforting constant. "We did it," Terran said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "We actually did it." Alara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "This is just the beginning. The Empire won't take this lying down. They'll come back, stronger and angrier than before." Terran sighed, her broad shoulders slumping slightly. "And we'll be ready. But do you think they'll ever understand? That we're not just some tiny army to be mocked?" Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. "They'll understand. Sooner or later, they'll realize that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone they've ever oppressed, everyone they've ever underestimated. And when they do, they'll regret underestimating us." The stage was set, the pieces in motion. The Galactic Empire, vast and unyielding, had been challenged by a force it could not comprehend. And as the stars burned cold and distant, the humans prepared for the storm to come.